Hello, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, and welcome. It's Nurse Richard the Wax Wizard. Thanks for joining me. All of those of you who like slimy, gooey, nasty ear infections, you're going to enjoy this one. Although it was a bit of a pain to remove, I'm not going to lie to you, for a couple of reasons. Now, I've used a fine end tube here. Now, why have I used that? Now, because it's so wet and gooey, it's kind of hard to get your bearings. So I've got lots of manoeuvrability in there to move this thing about the fine end tube, and it just helps you be a bit more accurate, because a lot of it involves peeling a lot of that dead skin and discharge. You can just see there, can't you? It's a nasty one, this. Now, the reason why it happens, because I've seen him a few times, this chap. This was a home visit, and almost always when I've seen him, it always looks the same. It looks wet, slimy, soggy, and clearly there's some kind of infection going on there. You can just tell because of the consistency and sliminess and sogginess of it. It's particularly gooey today. And every time I see him, I clear it as best you can. You're not going to see a spotless ear at the end of this. Not far off, but you're not going to see a spotless ear at the end of this. It's practically impossible to get every little speck of these slimy infections away with the best will in the world. And when you're giving the treatment the best chance to work. And every time I've seen him in the past, I've requested some sprays and antibiotics and all sorts and everything from the doctor, and sure enough, sure as eggs is eggs, it always comes back in usually around about every 4 to 6 months, there or thereabouts, after going to see him at home again. It's quite difficult to keep it steady on this. Reason being is you have to work with what you've got when you go and do home visits. Look at this big slimy chunk coming out, big in this. You have to work with what you've got, and he was sitting on his favourite armchair whilst I was kneeling at the side of him. So you always have to think about the person behind these ears, So it's not always as straightforward as it seems. None of these are done under anaesthesia at all. I know some procedures you'll see are, but we don't tend to do that in the UK. Only for really extreme cases does it need to be done under anaesthetic. So yeah, how it happens. This chap, now, he comes from a tradition. He's obviously an older gentleman. I think he was Irish. Not that that's anything to do with it. But I think that traditionally he always went to the GP when he had a problem with his ears, and they used to flush it out with a metal syringe of water. And that's often what they did back. It's banned now. I think they still do it in some parts of the world. Have you ever heard of it being done? Then let me know where it still happens. I believe it might even still happen in the US. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I have heard that occasionally it does. So what it involves is basically a huge, big, giant metal, and it is big, usually about this big, a big metal syringe with like a cone-shaped tip on the end of it. It's inserted into the ear, and water is flushed into the ear, loosens it up, and it falls into a cup under the ear. Proper dangerous, it really is, for a few reasons. Mostly because that jet of water is going directly into the ear, therefore directly at the eardrum, so the risks of perforations are really high. I have heard of it happening many times from patients I've seen who used to have it done that way. And so yeah, thankfully it was banned. Now we do still sometimes use water irrigation over here, but we use it with a controlled flow, an irrigator. And the tip of it designed that it points upwards at the roof of the ear canal, gets behind it, fills up the ear canal and forces it out. But so anyway, what the point of what I'm saying is, he always used to have it done that way. What he does himself, now we know he does this because I think we've caught him at it, as his family, is he does this himself quite a lot. Whether it's every time he goes for a wash or gets in the shower, but we do know that he tries to flush his own ears out with whatever he's got to hand. whether that be the shower head or whether he's got his own secret stash of syringes, I don't know. But undoubtedly, that's what keeps causing these repeated infections in his ear. Thankfully, not done any damage, but it's not going to do any good. Keep doing that, because why it causes the infection is your ear is, now, some of you regulars who watch this, you'll already know, but there might be some people who've watching this before who might not know. The ear is naturally acidic, and that's what helps to prevent but we all have bacteria, fungus all over our skin, everywhere, and if the right environment for that is for those bacteria or fungus or both to be created, and they both tend to like dark, warm, damp places, then they can take over and they can colonize that area, so to speak. And because he's constantly flushing out the natural the natural oils that the ear creates, which again, like I said, is not slightly acidic, which helps to prevent infections from taking over, he's constantly getting rid of what his ear's already making to defend itself. So it can't defend itself. Now, I've explained this to him many times, but I suspect he keeps on doing it, maybe more of a habit, I don't know. So you've obviously seen removing a fair amount of slimy stuff, some nice little peels from the edge as well. Now, I'm already happy at this point that we've removed as much as we possibly can. Anything else after this is a bonus. Like I said, you're never going to see a spotless ear at the end of this. Very rare that you can get them completely spotless when there's been a nasty infection. But I didn't carry on for too much longer after this. I did try and keep going in deep down just to try and get that little spot there. But I could sense he was getting it obviously gets louder as the suction tube approaches the eardrum, and I could sense he was getting quite twitchy. And sometimes you have to think, is it safe to carry on doing this for a little tiny speck? When truth be told, the whole infection isn't going to have been removed from this. It'll still be there. But the whole point is you've removed as much as you can, so you've exposed enough of the ear canal that the treatment can then start to work a bit better. So I have asked his doctor to take a swab of it, just to rule out anything unusual and to make sure that the treatment is the correct one. Because certain type of infections respond better to certain treatments. You'll see, it's the whole purpose of swab. When you take a swab, obviously you collect that bacteria and or fungus on it, and it gets taken away to the laboratory. And then what they'll do, they'll spread a bit of it on several petri dishes, and then they'll put some treatment on, an antifungal antibiotic, a different antibiotic, and they'll see which one it kills the best by how much of it has disappeared, you know. So hopefully you can get one that matches up to it, but whether long term is the answer, I don't know. As long as he keeps squirting stuff in his ears, I think it's going to keep happening, to be honest with you. But you can only do what you can. Like I said, there's always a person behind each picture that you can see there. But so I'm really not too concerned about that tiny, it is microscopic, that little blob there, because I could just sense he was twitchy. He was more interested in football, by the way. You might have been able to hear in the background, as well as the sounds of the suction, you might hear some cheering and some commentary. He was watching the football at the time. It was distracting him a little bit, but I could sense he was just getting a bit twitchy. So at this point I thought, do you know what, we've removed 99% of it. You've got to bear in mind what it looked like before. So there it is before. I've got a few more images of what it was like before, just to cast your mind back. So I was more than happy with everything we'd got there, and how it had ended up is like this. Relatively clear ear canal, few smudges here and there, but until you get the right treatment in there, it's going to keep coming back anyway, so it's really not important to get every little last speck. But no doubt he'll appear in one of my videos in the future, because I've no doubt he's going to carry on doing the same thing. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that, but for now, take care of yourself, and I'll see you soon. Ta-da.